And Alison was guilty of one crime. She was pointing out YouTube leaving up content that violated its own policies. And then she had the temerity to play said content from YouTube on YouTube, which of course meant, boom, she gets her channel suspended, the video taken down, because YouTube does not like it if you play the content that they don't like, unless of course you are blessed. And she was pointing out that this content was, being played by the blessed people, by the mainstream. So not surprisingly, they went after her because that's what YouTube does.
It's no longer YouTube. It's OurTube. So, over the weekend, Alison Morrow was dealing with the suspension of her channel over her video showing that the mainstream media can get away with violating the medical misinformation rules on COVID-19, while a small independent creator cannot. And how this happened is because she literally showed video footage, which you'll see going over this, of NBC and CNN talking early COVID before the medical misinformation policy. She's showing this, talking about it with a co-host or a guest, and she discussing how this technically now violates this policy. So why are you, if somebody cites this, just giving them a warning or suspending their channel if they've already had their warnings, and then denying their appeals and so on and so forth. Basically just going through, this is messed up, YouTube. Why are you siding solely with corporate media on this? Is it a violation of your medical misinformation policy, or is it not? If it is, then why aren't these corporate media sites getting it taken down? If it's not, then why are you striking these independent creators? And again, I understand the context of the fact that, and I'm sure she does as well, these video clips were done before the medical misinformation policy in a lot of cases. That being said, if you're going to arbitrarily apply the same standard to everybody, then you need to apply it equally. And that was her point. And what does YouTube do? Spectacularly does the suspension. Not only do they do the suspension, but you'll see, I'll post the screenshot of the tweet here, that they denied her appeal. Why would they deny their appeal if not for the fact that they don't want to have people talking about the double standard? Now, if you made it this far in the video, that means it's still up on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on my locals or Bitchute page, links down in the description of both of those, by the way, you're going to realize that I've been censored too. But again, if I'm on YouTube, then I haven't been. So I'm not trying to say YouTube is going to censor me. I'm just aware that making this video, that is a possibility. So when you sit there and look at all of this, it's one of those, why is this happening? And the reason why, money. These corporate media presences not only generate traffic to YouTube, but I'm sure they are also paying in for ad revenue. They are paying in for other things. So why not let them get away with some of the rules violations? But again, I'm not going to say that they are violating the rules. These two particular clips, I am pretty sure, I can't verify 100%, but I'm going to say I'm like 99.9% sure, were pre-COVID misinformation policies. At least the ones that I'm showing anyways, from her video. That being said, Alison has a good point, because as a content creator, as an independent content creator, while she does not rely solely on YouTube for her monetary income and things like that, she does rely on the network that is YouTube with sponsorships, and we'll play that clip here.
Wet blanket issue, because the videos I showed were from 2020 where NBC basically says, you know, masks don't always work. And then Sanjay Gupta on CNN says that it's just like the flu, or sometimes the flu might even be worse. These are two clear violations of YouTube's policies. And somebody said, well, these are from 2020. Show me something from 2021. My whole point was to say that they're going after people on YouTube right now for videos from 7 years ago. Matterfalia is a good example. And so the fact that they're old means nothing. If YouTube were only going after current stuff, then maybe you'd have an argument, but they're going after small creator stuff from a really long time ago and stuff that doesn't even break guidelines. So, but then the obvious things that do break guidelines from only a year ago in a corporate station, they're allowing. Secondly, if it wasn't medical misinformation because it was from 2020, then I shouldn't have gotten slammed for showing it because it's from 2020 and I put the date clearly on there. So I got suspended for showing their video. So either it is or it isn't medical misinformation. If it's not medical misinformation because it was produced in 2020, then I shouldn't be suspended. Or it is medical misinformation, regardless of whether it was produced in 2020, in which case they should, NBC and CNN, who are the makers of the videos that I showed, should be suspended too, or they should have gotten their first warning or whatever else. It's just.
So as you can see, she is making the same argument that I am, is that yes, it's 2020. And if it's not a violation of it for them, then it's not a violation for me to be discussing it now as to what they are talking about. Now, the caveat is what's the context of what you're discussing? Are you still trying to promote that, hey, just they changed their tune, so therefore they've changed their tune, but they're still right that the masks don't help? I can understand that still being a violation of the medical policy. That's okay. But if you're like Alison making the connection of the media doesn't get bogged down with this, yet people who are violating updated terms of service policies for content that they made 7 years ago, like she discussed in this, why aren't the news media then getting taken down for violating the medical health policy on COVID for their stuff in 2020? Context is what's the key missing point here. YouTube doesn't care, no matter what they say. YouTube itself does not care about the small creators like myself, like Allison. Allison's huge compared to me, but that's not the point. They don't care about the small creators anymore. They only care about those that bring in either ad revenue or pay the ad revenue. Ergo, my content on this platform, even if I were to get the 1,000 subs tomorrow and the 4,000 watch hours tomorrow and maintain it for another month, the constant views for that 4,000 watch hours, there is no way on earth my content would ever be monetized. No way. Because I am an itty bitty content creator. I don't toe the line with them, and I don't care to. The whole point of YouTube was to be a bastion of free speech, to create what you want to create. It's no longer create what you want to create. It's create what we tell you you can create. And if you create something we don't, we're either going to demonetize that content or we're going to strike you, suspend you, and eventually yeet your channel. Now, you can see things kind of shifting away from the politics and stuff of this. You can see kind of the same thing when it comes to Flat Earth versus debunking Flat Earth. It is a situation where we can debunk and talk about it, but it's not going to get the same ad revenue as if I were to just sit down with my great nephew and make box opening videos and have him play with the toys, the games, the etc., and give his review of it. You know, although that's kind of been beaten to death, but that's kind of the point. safe content is getting oversaturated, but at the same time, there's no ad market for, shall I call, risque content that is politics or pseudoscience or critiquing that. So it's rather interesting that it is a situation where we have YouTube no longer being there for the creators. And now it's been this way for quite a while. I know many of you will tell us that. I mean, heck, you just have to watch Veterans Talk Weekly and Kanar with Damar on a regular basis to hear the jerk complain about, oh, he's been demonetized or he's gone yellow, so limited ad revenue. And that's why it's important for content creators to have multiple outlets, i.e. Patreon, Teespring, things like that. Now, I want to play one more clip from Alison from her live stream that she did earlier today. She did it to locals in Odyssey, Rockfin, and YouTube at one point. I believe she was streaming to 4 different platforms at once through her StreamYards account. And I think that this is an important message that she has, and I have to agree with her. So let's get that played.
And so even though I'm going to tell you what happened, which is going to be a lot of old news for some of the people watching on Rockfin and Locals and Odyssey, but I'm going to go through what happened because there is no celebration in the fact that I'm live streaming right now, okay? Other than there have been amazing people who have come to my defense and have complained and rallied against YouTube such that they quietly reversed their decision that originally they said broke their community guidelines, which let's all remember, I'm going to tell you real fast. The video in question, Rule Breakers, you'll see it, it's the last video on my channel, was showing NBC and CNN videos, showing how they can break YouTube's rules while YouTube targets independent creators. And they literally proved my point, because did they go after those original videos and remove them from CNN and NBC's channels? No. Did they give CNN and NBC a strike? Not that I know of. Did they suspend me for showing those videos? Yes. So literally, they proved the point of my video by suspending me for content that was on a corporate news site for a video about how corporate news can do whatever they want without consequence, and independent creators have a bullseye on their back.
Yes, of course. There is no reason to celebrate that she is back on YouTube when you know for a fact that YouTube's just going to strike her again and strike any other number of content creators again and again and again. While I couldn't find the clip, I know she talks about it in either her live stream herself from today or in her live stream with Eric Hunley the other day. Point being, regardless of the fact, if you want to support people who are not the best content creators for OurTube, then find out where they have either a Patreon or a local subscribe star, Rumble, etc. You know, various other platforms, Bitchute. You know, it is one of those that I'm going to agree with her in the next clip. But if you really care about the content creators that you want to support, there are better ways than YouTube. There are better ways to support those creators that don't allow YouTube to control or censor these things. As a matter of fact, we'll get to that in just a second. Let's play that last clip that I want to play from Alison's live stream from today, and then we'll close out this video, okay?
They're waiting for. I don't have any sympathy for people who complain about this stuff and don't take any action to go somewhere else. There are a lot of people on my other platforms who have inconvenienced themselves, and really it ends up being a win for everybody, frankly, because they go over to places where there are amazing creators who far preceded me on their content, you know, and truth telling that would never be able to be on YouTube. They got kicked off long ago. And this isn't a new problem for them. They probably don't even talk about this anymore. I'm sure they don't even talk about this that often anymore, because they're just like, yeah, I'm doing something else now. And I'm hoping that I'm going to stop talking about getting suspended and stuff soon too. Like, I'm hoping this is one of my last videos about it, and I'm just going to be like, oh, it's raining. Okay. Yeah.
So I just want to end with this thought. Like I said, I'm going to continue to post my stuff to YouTube, but I'm not going to only post to YouTube. I'm going to be more active in where I post my stuff. And as I grow and as I can move on to other platforms like Odyssey and Rockfin and things like that, I hope to be able to be providing better content, more regular content. I am also going to take my other channels from YouTube as well and move them over to these other platforms because of the simple fact I can't trust YouTube anymore. I cannot trust Google. I cannot trust anybody out there who decides to get a burr up their ass and then say that I'm, the second coming of insert bad person here and want me off the platform. I'm sorry, but we need to have an internet bill of rights where there are things such as free speech, and just because you disagree with my opinions doesn't mean that I need to be removed from being able to express those opinions. The only way to truly get people to get rid of bad beliefs is to discuss them openly, which is what Alison was doing here. She's literally showing you that, hey, YouTube is okay with bad policy or, policy violations from mainstream media or corporate media, as I like to call them now. But this YouTuber here who posted something from 7 years ago doesn't get the opportunity to keep his content because he gets a strike for violating some arbitrary rule now that content now violates. There needs to be an accounting at YouTube. And I know Susan Wojcicki will never ever see this video, but maybe instead of relying on an algorithm, maybe instead of relying on the computers to tell you when something's a violation, maybe wait for the review process. Let somebody come to you and say, hey, I have a problem with this video. Here's what I think is wrong with it. And if you're getting a lot of flags on it, assume that it's a mass flagging and not actual people having an issue with it. Look into it. See what your policies are. Make them not so broad and ambiguous. You have Section 230 immunity right now. So, do you really have anything to fear? So, I don't know. But with that said, this will probably be the last time with this outro that I am doing this. I'm going to revamp the outro. I'm going to have the links to my Patreon, Subscribe Star, Bitchute, locals.com, and I believe it's thoughtsbyjbrown.locals.com. It's up. I just haven't posted anything there. This will be the first video to make it over there. And as I grow, hopefully I can get Odyssey and Rumble going, and I can apply to be a content creator on Rockfin. So thank you all very much for listening, taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Again, as the Washington Post states on their banner, democracy dies in darkness. Well, unfortunately, free speech dies in silence.